Hello, and indeed, it is great to be with you all today. And I understand there are many new angels who are joining us. So I hope that if I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you all in person, that happens soon. But in the meantime, this special virtual afternoon will suffice and be a way to do that as a first step. So for those of you who may not know, I am Tom Viola. I'm the Executive Director at Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. And again, I look forward to talking to you today and meeting you all in person at some time. So today, as a small thank you to each of you for continuing to stand with Broadway Cares as members of the Angel Circle and in so many other ways, we are excited, very excited, in fact, to be opening the doors of our virtual office. I'm actually here in the Broadway Cares small conference room. Those are event posters you can see behind me and an Easter bonnet. But we're here to welcome you into basically what is our first Your Support in Action conversation. Today, we are going to be focusing on the direct services that you have helped us to provide to organizations, hundreds of organizations across the country, and literally hundreds of thousands of their clients through our national grants program. Your Support in Action, what we are calling this conversation moving forward, is an opportunity for all of us to come together and have a shared conversation, and the important word there is shared, about how your support, your essential, vital support, is making a direct impact on the lives of hundreds of thousands of folks across the country, and as importantly, allowing hundreds of social services, and we'll speak to 3 today, expand and sustain their services. So today, we are going to hear from 3 remarkable organizations that I'm happy to say I feel like I know very well. And we're going to learn more about how your support makes it possible for members of those specific communities to respond to the needs that arise in those communities. How you, as members of our Angel Circle, empower them to live up to the understanding that truly what we do together makes a difference. Now, I'm happy to say that we will be joined by Broadway Cares Major Gifts and Client Officer, and I'd like to thank the Dick Cabot of Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, our good friend Nick Mayo, who will moderate this conversation. So Nick, I assume you're on board and ready to go.
I am.
And let's get this, there you go. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Tom.
Let's get this party started. Our first guest serves as the Chief of Business Strategies and Development Officer at Apache Community Health Center. Let me let you know right off, for those who don't know, Apache stands for Asian and Pacific Islanders Coalition on HIV/AIDS. Apache works to increase access to comprehensive primary care, preventative health services, mental health, and supportive services. Our guest has been part of the management team that worked to implement Apache's one-stop HIV care model, which is really held up in great esteem across the country, so, as well as here in New York City. She has extensive experience in advocacy to promote civil rights and the arts, and is a community organizer and journalist. So it is my great pleasure to ask you to please welcome from Apache, Ding Parahuan, joining us, and our moderator, Nick Mayo. Ding, come on board.
Ding is coming from the green room.
There we go.
Greetings from Apache Community Health Center, and good afternoon. Delighted to be here, and thank you for this opportunity to directly communicate with you all.
I think it's a great honor to see you and to hear you. I've admired your work for a very long time, and your personal work as an advocate, and an activist, and an advocate. So we appreciate you taking the time to share this conversation with all of our donors.
Right.
Ding, can you talk a little bit about the services provided by Apache?
Okay, if you allow me to quickly just go back, and because Broadway Cares, we grew up with the kinds of support that Broadway Cares provided to us, even from the very beginning, when we were focused on Asian and Pacific Islanders. As Tom said, that our purpose then was really to focus on the that community that was totally ignored from the surveillance data. But over the years, as we began to expand the horizon in terms of what are the needs of our HIV patients, we also began to understand that they do live a life, they have families, they have partners who also need healthcare. And as a result of that, we transformed to become a community health center. That was in 2010. So with that, not only are we providing all the comprehensive HIV care, but we also take care, make sure that people's cholesterol, blood pressure, and all that are also undertaken. And for those of our patients who are from the trans community, we take care, make sure that they have, their hormones when they are ready to transition, and all the other sexual health services that we are able to offer under our current situation. And we are a federally qualified health center as designated by the federal government.
And what I
Jing, I
find,
have to tell you, I'm very proud of the fact that I feel like our organizations have grown up together, because
Yes.
Apacha has been a grantee of Broadway Cares literally since 1990. That's before we even
Yes.
merged the two organizations in 1992. And again, at that time, I think it was maybe a $2,500 grant. But we, as you've expanded, so have we. And that's basically because of the donor support that we have to be able to do that. You're becoming a health center in 2010. I know was a very big marker, both for you as your organization, but for us to be able to extend ourselves to health centers across New York City and indeed the country.
Right. And we are grateful for your continuing support.
and the support of the people in this room are literally, and one of my favorite pieces of the work you do is HIV/AIDS knows no language, knows no barrier. Serving this community in this time, can you talk a little bit about that and what is COVID-19 and this past pandemic? Knowing that you were birthed during another pandemic, how has this provided some challenges, and the support that you receive from these donors in the room, how is that helping you through this challenging time?
Yes, we've had to deal with not only the COVID, but also, of course, the continuing needs of our HIV population. The pandemic forced us to immediately expand our services using telehealth, and this was a very important concern with that for us, because our HIV patients, they need ongoing care throughout, regardless of what happens. They need to be seen, their labs have to be tested. And of course, with the pandemic came with unemployment, which caused a lot of people for the time there before the government stepped in to provide, that policy that, basically barred eviction. That was very helpful, and we tried very hard to inform our patients that they are not, they cannot be evicted. So we had to make sure our navigators are able to reach to those patients. Not only that, as you know, in addition to the historical stigma and discrimination of HIV, we also experienced the anti-Asian hate crimes. So a lot of our patients who were of Asian and API descent had to, experience additional isolation. Not only the fear of being out in the open, and being the fear of being attacked on the streets, So we had to make sure that they too not only get the services even through telehealth, but also making sure that the therapy, the group sessions, the support groups that they all wanted to have just to break out of the isolation is available to them.
It seems like stigma on top of stigma.
Yes,
not
yes,
only
yes.
status. And to be able to serve that community during
Mhm.
this time, I could imagine is an extreme,
Right.
extreme need. I just want to remind,
Ding, have you opened back up again? Are you still doing meetings by Zoom or?
Oh, yeah, we actually never close. That's the
Okay.
thing, is that for those people who were brave enough,
Mhm.
to ride the subway and they really wanted to see the providers, we were there. And if, in fact, our team of that provided the packages of food for our HIV patients, they packed it, and made sure that they are delivered, to the door safely, and they took every precaution, but we never stopped.
Ding, it is such
Wow.
an honor for us to all be in this work together. Jeff Perils from one of our angels asked, is Apacha a for-profit or nonprofit organization?
It is a nonprofit organization under the 501c3.
Great. And I just want to remind our angels in the room, please feel free to use the raise your hand button below. And if you have a question of anyone in our on our panel, we're happy to answer your questions. Just use that raise the hand button. Ding, if you don't mind, I would love to welcome one of our other guests. Thank you so much for being here. If you head back to the green room, we'll see you at the end when we all come back together for a panel chat.
Yes, thank you. See you later.
Enjoy the
Thanks,
cheese in the
Ding.
green room.
Good to see you.
Yes.
So here we go. Our second guest is a wonderful actor who is best known perhaps to many of you as Eric Beale on all 12 seasons of NCI Los Angeles. But many of us here at Broadway Cares really feel he is a theater veteran and has graced Broadway stages in such shows as Avenue Q and the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, both of which I saw numerous times. And our guest was wonderful in both and very involved in our fundraising at both, leading the charge many times. He serves as the vice president of the board of Everyday Action, which is the organization we're going to speak of today, which works to reallocate the food waste, if you will, I might prefer to say leftovers, on film sets directly to those living on the streets of Los Angeles, Long Beach, and the San Fernando Valley. He's a longtime friend of Broadway Cares. I feel like we have watched him grow up from a young man to a very esteemed member of the entertainment industry. And he's a fellow Angel Circle member. So please help me welcome Barrett Fowen. Hey, Barrett.
Hi, Tom. What a great introduction. And thank you for not using the word old.
No. I was actually tripping up on that in my head as I was saying it.
You did great.
I was trying to self-correct.
Good morning, Barrett.
It's so great to be here. Good morning.
Where are you zooming in from?
I'm from Los Angeles, so it is a little early.
Are you vocally warm?
Oh, yes, I did all my warm-ups.
We're ready to go?
Definitely not wearing pants, but that's an old Zoom joke.
It never gets old. Barrett,
never gets old.
What is Everyday Action? How did this happen? Where did this come from?
Everyday Action was started by two assistant directors, ADs, on our show on NCIS Los Angeles. And they just kept seeing, as we all do, and as a century of film and television has showed us, when food service is done, when the gourmet meals that they serve on these television sets are done, they get scraped into a dumpster. You just see just piles of lasagna and trays of it just into a garbage can. And they were like, we are frustrated about this. Let me go back in time to 2000 when I was in a Gap ad, the West Side Story Gap ads. I don't know if you remember those.
I remember.
And I remember being on this set. It was my first and only time as a model. And of course, they just had all the food in the world. And of course, none of these models, especially in that sort of time, were eating anything. And I remember being like, what's happening to this food? Because, I was a 22-year-old actor. And people were like, it's getting thrown out. Don't say anything. Don't. And I just remember being like, this is wrong. And I packaged it up to, you know, wherever we were, Silver Cup or something, and put it on the subway and was calling around for homeless shelters. And I knew that was sort of wrong back then, especially as a hungry little actor. So fast forward to these friends of mine who are seeing the same thing and are frustrated about the same thing. And during the pandemic, they're like, you know what, we finally have time to solve this. So they thought up this thing, this organization called Everyday Action, where we save all the food from different sets around Los Angeles and redistribute it, reallocate it to shelters, to missions, to unhoused people under bridges. And it's like the most simple thing, but they figured out a way to do it. There's always been there's this sort of old sort of law that people thought existed, or I think did exist, that was like, oh, if that food gets someone sick, then that person can sue. That is no longer the case. There is a Good Samaritan law that has gone into place in the past like 5 years. Plus, we figured out how to have liability insurance and all these sort of things. So we take away all the scariness that a production is like, wait, we're giving you our food, but can we trust you? Are you going to try to like talk to our stars while you're here picking up the food? Like all of that stuff. We're like, no. We are food superheroes. We used to be called food ninjas, but we're going away from that word. But that gives you that idea of like, we would just go into a set, no one knows, we're taking the food and we're giving it to someone who needs it.
It's a little Robin Hood-y in there.
It is. It's dramatic in our own little way.
But obviously there was an identification that there is food insecurity. Like food insecurity exists. It's a real thing, and there's something to be done, and being empowered to take action in the moment.
Absolutely. I mean, LA, just even since I've been here in the past 12 years that I've been here, you see the tent cities pop up here, and then especially over COVID, that just really got scary. My boyfriend lives up in San Francisco, and I've been visiting him up there, and that's sort of turning into a shell of a city that already had a homeless problem. So you can see that the homeless problem is really expanding during COVID, and so there is such a need for it right now, and this is just like the perfect year to do this and to expand.
And that's when we actually met you first, I want to say, Derek. Were we your first grant sponsor?
Yes,
where did we come on board?
So we got our 501c3 status about a year ago.
Right.
And then I contacted you sort of first thing, and It was like the thing that launched us so that we could start. We're so grateful. Like I get every time we talk about Broadway Cares, the Broadway Cares camp, we all just start crying because it really like helped us launch. We have saved over 110,000 meals.
Wow.
Since we started in a year.
And what's extraordinary is that's not having to fund the meals. It's really this must be incredibly volunteer intensive. So how does that?
That's interesting. So we do have volunteers, but we also have drivers that we pay.
Excellent. Got it. Good.
And those drivers are actors.
There you go.
And production assistants that are between jobs. So we can actually pay them a wage. It is not a living wage in Los Angeles, but it's a wage and it's a start. We have some part-time people too. So we're supplementing people's, there's so many people that benefit from this. So of course, our unhoused brothers and sisters, the missions, the shelters that get the food. But then there's also each dollar that you're giving is also sort of going to those other nonprofits that we work with, that we're delivering to Bridge to Home, Youth Emerging Services, like the Trans Latino Coalition, Feed Skid Row. I mean, we're just all over the place. And then the networks are like, oh, we're reducing food waste. So their green and sustainability corporation-y people are happy. The bottom line people are happy because they can deduct taxes. I mean, it's like so many things just by being like, we want to feed some homeless people and save some food and eliminate food waste. So many other things are benefiting.
No,
so
it's amazing.
Like,
so basically, I would say to our Angels donors that your dollar donation, let's say, basically gets multiplied, it sounds like, by about 20.
It's true.
In all the ways that this grant from Broadway Cares that all of you make possible interacts with so many other organizations and folks who are taking advantage of this incredible sort of gold mine that was discovered on these buffet tables at all these TV and film sets.
And empowered the humans to do the act of providing that meal.
Yeah.
So you have ideas. They're only ideas until you have the means to do the action. You have the good intention. I just want to draw attention. Rob O'Neill says, Barrett, as a representative of the TV community and one who continues to license NCIS LA, let us know if we can find a way to extend the reach of your local food program. So even in this conversation, Angel Circle, it's getting bigger. It gets larger. It gets more expansive.
Here's the thing. We're at a tipping point. So there are probably, 50 sets, commercials, movies, TV sets in LA every day. We can only handle 7 to 12. And it's so there's like 40 sets that are just throwing away their food into a dumpster, and we can't get to them because we don't have the means, we don't have the drivers, we can't pay people. We have some volunteers, but those are like 2 a day. It's sort of, it's, but if we're paying people to do it, which we want to do, we can only sort of go so far. We were also featured on the Kelly Clarkson show recently, in her Rad Humans segment, and so we blew up, but we have to start turning people away. So we really are at that point of like, oh, we want to do more. So everyone's starting to trust us. We're starting to be like the industry standard instead of the industry exception. People were like, what are you gonna do here? So now it's like, oh, word's caught on. So help us out. This is great.
Really, really exciting. And the people who are in this room are making that work possible. It wouldn't be possible for that lasagna to go from that set to a family who needs it if it weren't for the continued support. So it's really wonderful to see that in action in this moment.
Thank you.
Barrett, would you go to the virtual green room and see if there's any cucumber sandwiches?
Yeah.
Put them in a
Do you want me to bring you back one, or?
No, I don't want
okay.
to. I want you to take them to someone who needs it. So go look around the green room, pack up some to-go things, and I'll see you in just a minute when we all come back together.
Thanks so much, Nick,
for sharing. Thank you.
And thank you, Angels, and thank you, Broadway Cares.
Yeah.
I'll see you in a bit. Just a reminder to everyone, if you have a question of any of our panelists, any of our guests, please use the raise your hand feature. I'm real excited about the raise the hand feature. You can use it. You raises your virtual. Oh, we've got our first question. Jeff, you please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question. Hold on, Jeff.
Hi, thank you. So Barrett, this is for Barrett. So I live in Lake Arrowhead where Mark Harmon lives, and I'm wondering if Mark can bring some food here and I'll get it distributed.
Barrett, feel free to unmute yourself and answer that question.
Yes, I love just the idea of giving food to Mark at the end of the day. I think that we actually cover NCIS as well as NCSLA and lots of other shows. So we do pick up their food. Thank you.
All right, Barrett, go get some more sandwiches.
Yeah.
Pack them up.
There we go. So are we moving on to our third segment?
Let's do it.
All right. So, hey, everybody. Our third guest is the executive director of the Indie Theater Fund, which assists organizations and individual artists creating independent theater in New York City. In 2020, the Indie Theater Fund awarded over $325,000 to nearly 600 individual artists, small companies, and arts venues. So our special guest is a founding member and co-artistic director of the Recchio Ensemble, a collective theater company that has been producing original work in New York City since 2000. I'm happy to say that I met our special guests during the shutdown as the Indie Theater Company began to take root. So please help me welcome Randy Berry.
Hello.
Hey, Randy.
Hi, how are
Welcome.
you?
Welcome.
Thank
Randy,
you.
where are you zooming in from?
I'm in Queens, New York, in
I've
Astoria.
heard of it. I've heard of it.
Land. I am. It's a beautiful day.
Randy, what is the Indie Theater Fund? Talk to us. Tell us what is that?
The Indie Theater Fund is an organization that supports indie theater makers with responsive, equity-focused, and radically transparent funding, real estate programs, community resources, and advocacy. And we've been doing that since 2012 in New York City, but of course have really ramped up over the last couple of years during COVID.
What do some of those resources look like? What are those direct resources look like?
We normally, in a non-pandemic year, we give grants to artists that have a very low impact application that remove the barriers for individual artists and small companies to resources and funds to pay themselves and the leaders within their organization. And we also provide free advisory and consulting services to small venues that are facing a real estate challenge or transition or opportunity, which was especially important during COVID when all of our venues were shut down and not able to operate, collecting back rent over the last 20 months. So we help them navigate that with their landlords and help stabilize them and keep them from closing.
What I'd like to jump in here, I mean, when Randy and I met, I think it was like in maybe April of right after the shutdown of 2020. What struck me particularly as important for Broadway Cares to jump on board to be a part of the sponsorship of this of the Indie Theater Fund is that you were responding to hundreds of folks who fall outside the safety net of social services provided by the Actors Fund. So I want to make sure that, for instance, when folks heard you say the word equity there in terms of what the Indie Theater Fund does, that has to do with equity and access and social justice. This is not about equity actors or folks who really do qualify for assistance at the Actors Fund. The Indie Theater Fund is a safety net of the safety net for hundreds of performance artists and technicians and creative folks who are working outside of the mainstream. Would that be correct, Randy?
That's absolutely correct. A lot of the artists that we work with are not operating within a commercial context.
Right.
Many of them are not members of the union for a number of reasons, cost, access, or a number of hours that they're spending. They're often working 2 to 3 jobs on top of doing their theater work. And so many of the artists that we support lost their day job and all of their creative gigs all in the same week, right? So they're the bartenders at the Broadway houses, They're, working in offices and small not-for-profits, that type of thing. And so, yes, the whole purpose of our organization is to make sure that those that are considered indie, that have individual artists or the smallest budget organizations and venues aren't left out of the conversation. And of course, a large majority of that community is made up of BIPOC artists, of trans artists, disabled artists, immigrant artists. There are many immigrant artists in our community, and they, for other reasons, may not have access to resources. So we were so thrilled. I mean, the investment in our work from Broadway Cares changed the game for us. And it wasn't just, we first met Tom at the beginning of the pandemic.
Right.
But this new, we also coordinated the Cultural Solidarity Fund this year.
Right.
Broadway Cares was the first funder to come in to the Cultural Solidarity Fund. There was a lot of institutions that were already participating, other theaters and museums and things like that. The Cultural Solidarity Fund was organized by the Indie Theater Fund and Le May, a very small immigrant-run theater company in Brooklyn. And we brought other institutions together to to focus on the individuals inside our institutions. We do not have, the institutions are so often a filter of funding, right? Like it's a trickle down funding concept, but the individuals are what makes the thing go. If without the individuals and without caring for them, there's no institution. And so we asked people to pitch in, and we've had 200 institutions pitch in at this point, but Broadway Cares was the very first with an incredible gift. And once Broadway Cares did it, Gilman came in, Mellon came in, it really, it was a show of solidarity and support that has turned into 1,200 artists receiving funds for food, rent, and medical expenses. And we just received a word of another grant for $325,000 last week. So we'll have our goal is to support every single artist that submitted an application.
I want everyone to hear that. I would love for you to repeat that. Angels in the Room, you made it possible for, give those numbers again.
1,200 people, individuals, have eaten, paid their rent, or covered medical expenses because of the support that was really started with the investment that Broadway Cares made into our fund.
That should be owned. That should be owned. I hope that you own that number, that feeling, because Randy, that made my chest feel proud.
Yeah.
Proud of the people in this room who made that happen. That's angels. Look what you did. That's awesome.
One of the things that Broadway Cares takes pride in, and we really do set as a priority, and Randy spoke to it just here, is we are often with the support of all of you on this Zoom and all of the angels and all of our major donors and the Broadway theater community, we are often the organization that steps up first to fund new programs, new initiatives, new endeavors. Because I've learned over the years that often, in terms of funding and maybe many other things, nobody really likes to be first. Everybody's a little bit nervous. Can we do this? Can we trust this? Is there going to be some kind of fallout? And I found over the years that Broadway Cares, with your support, stepping up in that way, can then open the doors that many others are willing and eager to follow.
I really do want to lift that up because it takes, our organization is a small organization, but we're deeply rooted in community, right? We know what the artists that we serve need. We knew that when the theaters closed, we had 1 week before people were not going to be able to feed their families. We knew that because we live paycheck to paycheck in the good times, right? So when everything closed, speed was important. It was really, it's always important. But it was especially important in this moment. And, Broadway Cares recognizing that put wind at our back to really be able to serve a tremendous number of people. And by the time we're done with the Cultural Solidarity Fund, there's 2,722 people that need support. Well, we've gotten 1,200 of them already with this big grant. We'll get another 600 out the door. But, it's only possible because somebody took a chance on us.
And you just really encapsulated what this whole conversation is about, which is the support of angels in the room allow a community to respond in action in the moment.
That's right.
Which is such a huge gift that you provide, angels, that swift action. Randy, thank you. That made my chest feel proud, and I hope, angels, it made you feel that same way. Ding and Barrett, stop eating sandwiches. Come back and join the stage. Come and join us. Oh, sorry, you're chewing.
My mouth was full.
I saved some for you.
I'm an actor. Did you see that? Did it look like I was really chewing?
You're very good. You should do that for a living.
So got it.
I want to just
give
one.
Nick, can I jump in here for a second? Because what I want to make sure I can share, not only with our guests here, but also particularly with everybody's here, all the angels that are here on the Zoom with us, is what's wonderful about these three guests together is that it really shows the breadth and depth and history, the legacy, if you will, of our National Grants Program. Because we have an organization such as APACHA that has been with us for literally, I can hardly believe it, 30 years. And as I said, we have grown up with you, Ding. We truly have built our foundations at the same time and moved forward and expand our services together. And Everyday Action and the Indie Theater Fund, Barrett and Randy, is really an example of the other end of that spectrum, which are two organizations that we have just met, and that we have met around the sort of catastrophe of this shutdown, but together we're able to actually be responsive rather than shut down ourselves or reactive. So that's something that my chest, to use Nick's phrase, is very proud of as well, and particularly grateful to all in the room who make that kind of support long-term and immediate possible.
But Tom, it's also such a cycle. Like,
That's what I say, circle.
you know, just like me with those red buckets outside of Avenue Q helping you out, and then decade later you're helping me out. I'm like, this is just, it's everyone's helping everyone. It's just this beautiful circle.
Does that make your chest feel proud?
It needed to be said a third time, so thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
It does make my chest feel proud.
Stop maybe right now.
Ding, what makes your chest feel proud?
Every day, I am grateful that always there's folks out there through thick and thin who comes forward and help us with every step of the crisis. And APCHA would not be in this state and survive all those years, 31 years in December, Tom, without that kind of caring that we get from you as a funding agency, and from the angels that support it. So thank you. That every day I'm thankful that we have that.
And here's another point, another good thing that you all represent is, Barrett, you will be Everyday Action will be part of our next grant round that's happening in January, our food service and meal delivery program grant round. So again, our angels are fueling that process and our ability to do that coming January. Randy, you'll be part, the Indie Theater Fund will be part of our theater community social service organization. It's a new grant round, actually, created just before the pandemic, that will happen in March. So, you will hear from us again then. And Ding, you and APCHA will be part of our largest and oldest, if you will, legacy grant round, which are the June grant rounds, which go to all variety of direct service organizations. So the three organizations, the three of you really represent the breadth and depth of our entire national grants program.
And the fact that we can hang our hat on that.
Yes,
Barrett.
Yes.
The fact that we know we can count on it, you don't know what that does to us as leaders of our organization. Knowing it, we can plan, right? We can think, breathe. That does my heart good. I can breathe knowing that I can depend on you. And that's, then our artists can depend on us for services. It's an amazing thing.
We've got someone who's raising their hand. Jeff, you are the angel of the day. Please feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question.
So this is for all three organizations. First of all, thank you all for being here and for what you do. I'm just curious, a couple things. One is, are there any matching funds available for either Broadway Cares or individually with each of these organizations?
I want to make sure I understand your question, Jeff, in terms of matching funds.
In other words, is there a donor that says, I'll put up X amount of dollars if somebody matches it? There's a lot of organizations that I've donated to in the past where somebody says, I'll put up 10 grand as matching funds, or I'll put up 100 grand, or I'll put up whatever they put up, so it doubles the impact.
100%, Jeff.
Hey, Terry, I think maybe I can answer that. We do that a lot, but that's most often done around event sponsorships as opposed to our grants program, which are very specifically programmatic grants. Now, an organization is always welcome to, Danny will understand this certainly, in terms of taking, say, a $10,000 grant and knowing that it's funding programmatic services, but also saying, almost as a marketing tool, if you will, that that has been given as a matching grant to spur or encourage other donations. But
yeah, that was more the spirit of the question, is how do you leverage it so that it's not just, gee, you make a donation, it's I'll make the donation as an incentive or a inspiration to others to match it.
I'm going to jump in here, Jeff, with some exciting breaking news. I cannot let this moment pass without saying that Giving Tuesday, we will have a very exciting $100,000 match for Giving Tuesday. So to answer your question in the moment, Jeff, yes, that will happen, and that does happen. And what a better way to double your impact than a $100,000 Giving Tuesday match. So you were 100% correct, and look forward to more opportunities to have things like a match in place to highlight the importance of the support and make sure that those meals, that those HIV tests, and that those resources are given to theater makers. So great question. I want to be super.
Through your employer, there's often like a matching program. So you can always.
Can I ask a follow-up real quick?
Of course.
Giving Tuesday, do they take part of the donation, or is it 100% goes to the organization?
It's 100%, and it's more or less a marketing umbrella. It's a brand, if you will, so that people. It's like World AIDS Day, if you will. It's a day that everybody's focused on.
And also, yeah, Giving Tuesday is a wonderful opportunity to take advantage of a match. We'll also have a really exciting end of year match. All donations go to Broadway Cares that come directly to us. I want to be very cognizant of everyone's time because it's lunch. I know a lot of people are tuning in during their lunch break, and I want to make sure that I'm cognizant of everyone's time. Barrett, Randy, Ding, thank you so much. I'm going to hand the virtual mic back over to Tom to say our final goodbye.
Yeah, sure. This has been wonderful. This has been a fabulous conversation. It's great to see Randy, you, Ding, Barrett. It's great to see you here, and Nick to join us here, and also to know that all the folks on the behind the Zoom screen that we're also engaging with and having conversations with. Truly, as I said, you all make our work possible. This food grant round that is coming up in January truly will lift off because of the support that the Angel Circle, particularly now when we're not doing our Red Bucket campaign, will make possible. It will allow us to sustain those grants and to actually expand them, as it will through the rest of the year. So really, thank you all so much for joining us. It's great to see you. I'm checking my script to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. I don't think I am, other than just to say from the bottom of my heart and Nick's chest, we thank you, and we really appreciate your support. Barrett, Ding, and Randy, my best to you and your organizations. You will hear from us again soon.
You too. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I'll